Gato's enforcers. Peter showed up late at night looking slightly the worse for wear and smelling of perfume, smoke and alcohol. The other ninja all gathered around the table to listen to what it was that Peter had learned from his questioning. They call them Gato's enforcers, Peter explained to the others as he displayed 3 pictures to the group. They're a trio of rogue ninja from some of the other elemental nations that work for hire. There's Iwatsuki Ishiura House, a literal mountain of muscle from the reports. He's a former earth ninja and he has a weapon that he's known for using. He has a giant hammer that he sometimes uses in his fighting style. People that get hit by it usually end up down and out. Rumor is that he's shattered men's bones and rocks with it. The next one is Shohei Ato, better known as Sure Shot. He's a former member of the Sand Ninja, and is supposed to be some sort of insane marksman that uses a horse bow and wraps his arrows in explosive tags, and when those don't work he has plenty of throwing blades to use. Rumor is that he can hit the target no matter where he's standing. Finally there's the last member of their little group of psychos. Kane Takeshi, or Whiplash as he goes by around here, is a lighting ninja, and he uses a steel whip to fight with. According to the reports he can make it do things that you wouldn't believe possible. Together they form Team Enforcer or just the Enforcers. So possibly a taijutsu specialist, a ninja tools specialist, and finally a special weapons specialist. Kakashi said as he eyed the trio of pictures with interest. And you say that they are all from different lands? That is an interesting claim when one considers the rivalries that many ninja have with each other. That's what the rumors are, Peter admitted to the man. Did you see their headbands though? Kakashi questioned with interest. Most of these pictures are a little off to the side so they may be where we can't see them. Many can say that they're from a ninja village, but there are very few that would actually dare to place a phony headband on. No, I was doing my best to stay out of their way until I knew what the plan was, Peter explained to the Jonin. That meant distance observation. Kakashi nodded and turned to look at the girl. Sakura, how about you? Did you see any clues or hints to indicate that they might have had headbands? No, sensei, the girl returned, but I wasn't really looking, but he did know who and what I was with, just a look. The girl explained to the sensei. Why is it so important if they really are ninja, sensei? A confused Naruto questioned. Because Naruto, it would determine how best to deal with them, Kakashi informed the blonde. The fighting style you would use against a bunch of civilians or even trained fighters is a lot different than if you were to fight ninja. Knowing who your opponent is, and what they are capable of is half the battle. I already knew how powerful and dangerous Zabuza was, which is why I went into the battle with my Sharingan, while with the Demon Mist brothers I didn't need it. Then there is the fact that every ninja village, while the core fighting style is the same, there are differences, and the jutsu that they teach are also vastly different as well. A ninja from sand is more likely to use wind-based attacks, while a ninja from mist like Zabuza uses water-based attacks. With this information we can predict to a degree their fighting style. Always remember that information is one of the most vital things that a ninja can gain. Yes, sensei, the genin returned. As for your question, Naruto, most ninja know that if they should ever come across ninja from other lands, then they are very likely to try and kill them. Then there is the fact that ninja that associate so with ninja from other village are likely to become targets from several tracker teams to prevent them sharing village secrets. Kakashi explained to the group. So we're looking at the possibility of tracker ninja from 4 different villages heading this way now? Sakura questioned in disbelief and awe. Isn't it bad enough that we're dealing with Zabuza and whoever he has with him? Don't worry, Sakura-chan, we can take any and all of them, Naruto said confidently. Once we finish the tree climbing exercise we'll be ready for whatever they throw at us. I mean seriously, you have so much control of your chakra that you're ready for them now. The boy told her, completely convinced of this. That might be a nice idea, Naruto, but the fact remains that's way too many ninja for us to deal with all at one time, Peter reminded his friend. So let's go and bust their heads in now so that they won't be able to help Zabuza later. Naruto returned with a grin. It'll give us a chance to try out our new training anyways and show them how powerful we've become. Naruto, you idiot, do you really think that would work? Sakura said in annoyance. These are experienced ninja, not village idiots like you. I don't know, I think we could take them, they're nowhere near as strong as Zabuza or Kakashi-sensei are. Naruto returned. Besides, I'll be there, he assured the girl. It's not a bad idea actually, Kakashi returned speculatively. If we were to prune their forces they had before Zabuza returned to full health, then there might be a chance that we would not be overwhelmed when Zabuza finally makes his return. Yeah, and who's going to do that? You need to stay and rest, gather your strength for your battle with Zabuza, Kakashi-sensei. Sakura pointed out to the Jonin. There's no way that you can take on all of those ninja and Zabuza without enough time to heal and recover your chakra. Kakashi nodded his head in agreement with her assessment of their current problem. True enough, so I suppose that the only way in which this problem is going to be dealt with is if the three of you take them on, he stated rather matter-of-factly to the Genin. What us? Sakura asked in shock at the idea that the three of them would be able to handle dealing with the trio of ninja. Sure, they had managed to distract Zabuza, but that was mainly due to luck, not because of any skills that any one of them had. How are we going to do that though, sensei? Well, I suppose that you'll need to figure that one out. Kakashi returned to the girl. All right. Naruto cheered excitedly at the prospect of fighting. So how do you want to do this? Naruto questioned his friends. We get ready to take on these guys to the best of our abilities. Peter returned to his friend. We can get in some extra training, but then we have to prepare ourselves for a fight like we haven't ever had before. This is going to be a bit different than anything that we've ever had to deal with and will be nothing like the sparring matches that we're used to. The group nodded as they began to plan how best to fight the ninja, with Kakashi adding in what he knew of the types of ninja and the combat styles that they used and how they were likely to use their fighting styles against them. The Leaf Genin of Team 7 then went to bed early for preparations of the battle to come. The trio of ninja got up early that morning so that they could go for a run to stretch all of their limbs out in preparation for the fight that they all knew was coming soon. Kakashi's energy levels were to the point that he could join them, but he wanted to do a few other things before he did that. The trio ate breakfast, and were preparing to head out when Inari came by to see what they were doing. The boy listened darkly as Peter and Naruto moved around in preparation for the coming fight. Why, the boy said, why do you even bother? All of your special training is just a big waste of time. The young boy said with conviction. Gato has an entire army of men for him to call on, and even you guys can't take them all on no matter how hard you may train and try. Despite everything you may say or even believe, at the end of the day the strong always win and the weak always lose. That's just the way that world works. To try and do otherwise is just stupid. Oh, put a sock in it already. Naruto grumbled at the boy. Yeah, it's a good thing we never were ones to follow the rules. Peter added with a smirk. Why don't the two of you just shut up and listen to yourselves? Inari shouted at the pair angrily. Looking at the two of you makes me sick. You guys don't know anything about our land and are just sticking your noses where they don't belong. The two of you seem to think this is all some big joke. You two don't what it means to be considered the weak ones or to be treated like dirt. Kakashi watched his students, curious as to how they would handle this particular accusation. He had checked the home lives of all of his students and knew that there were many things that neither was really interested in talking about just yet. They had come a long way from their days of scrounging through junk piles and being beaten by villagers. The last comment caused both boys to freeze and the smirks to fall from their faces as stared out the door in barely suppressed rage. You say we need to listen to ourselves, what about you? Naruto said darkly. You're always trying to act like the victim of everything that is going on. What do you really have to so upset about though? You have a home and family around you. That's a lot more than a lot of others can say. At least your grandfather has the guts to try and do something about Gato and what he's doing to your land. Yeah, maybe the real reason that they need a bridge is because of you. Peter added darkly. And don't you ever tell us that our lives were easy. We know exactly what it's like to be the target for all of those that don't think that we're worthy or because we're different that they can get away with it. Both boys remembered what their lives were like before they had become ninja and knew that there were those that would still love to show them what they thought of the demon and its foreign comrade. We won't be lectured on conduct by someone who is too much of a coward to stand up for himself. Naruto added with a growl. The two boys turned to glower at Inari, who nervously backed away from them. Eyes that usually glowed with cockiness and mischief were now cold, hard and distant orbs that promised lots of pain. The amount of killer intent that radiated off of them was enough for even the small boy to sense it. Enough, you two, you guys went too far, Sakura said, stepping between her teammates and the boy. The boys huffed and turned their eyes on Sakura for a moment before storming out the door. Sakura hesitated a moment. Naruto had never looked at her like that and the look scared her somewhat. It was as if the anger that they felt could just as easily been unleashed on her as it could on Inari. In all of the time she had known Naruto, that was the first time he had ever looked at her like that. I'll try and get them to settle down before the fight, sensei, Sakura said, as she bowed to the man before reluctantly rushing after her teammates. Kakashi turned to look at Inari. If I thought that there was time, I would sit down and talk this out with you. However, there is more going on here than we have time to deal with. Those two can be somewhat harsh and unforgiving at times. Naruto and Peter had it rough though. Neither of them ever knew who their parents were growing up. They also were without friends until they came together thanks to the Hokage. Peter doesn't have any memories of anything or anyone before he came to our village, while Naruto has had less than stellar treatment at the hands of the people. In all that time though, I've never seen either of them complain over how tough things are or how unfair life is. It's part of why they are so eager to jump in no matter what. Naruto wants respect for everything that he's done, while Peter on the hand wants nothing more than to know who and where he comes from. Combined, the two of them have more inner strength than most ninja years above and beyond them. Also think of this, they are ready to put their lives on the line against ninja that would just as soon as kill your entire family as let you continue to walk around. Kakashi sighed tiredly before he went to sit and meditate in preparation for the coming battle. He did hope that his students could manage their mission all right. While he had faith in their abilities, he did not want them to be hurt or killed on their first mission either. He wondered what his sensei would have done in such a situation. As the trio were running their laps through the forest, they saw a figure in a sleeveless pink kimono gathering various herbs. The genin stopped even as the figure rose from where they were gathering to look at them. "Greetings," the figure said, bowing respectfully toward Team 7 while the trio looked the person over. Long hair framed soft feminine features, and a small smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "Hey," Naruto said happily as he greeted the figure in pink. "What are you doing out here?" "I am gathering herbs," the figure explained. "Herbs?" Naruto questioned. "Yes," the figure said with a smile. "They're for healing illnesses and curing wounds." "Pretty early to be working on something like this, isn't it though, ma'am?" Naruto questioned. "I like it early," the figure returned. "It's peaceful and quiet." "That's very nice," Sakura said with a tight smile at the gorgeous figure. As much as she hated to admit it, they could probably give both her and Ino a run in the looks department. "I prefer to study in the early mornings myself. You'll have to forgive Naruto for not introducing himself," she added while shooting the blonde a glare. "This is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm Sakura Haruno, and over there is Peter Parker Abraham." Peter nodded and gave a cheery wave toward the figure. "I am Haku," the figure responded. "May I ask what ninja are doing this far out in the wilderness though? I did not think that there was anyone willing to pay for ninjas this far out." "We're on guard detail," Peter said, eyeing the figure suspiciously. Something about them was off. The fact that there was a low buzz from his spider sense didn't help the matter either. I see. Haku returned before returning to the task of gathering plants. You are ninja, correct? I noticed the headbands. Unless the three of you are starting a fashion statement of some sort, that is. Haku joked with a smirk at the group of ninja. No, merely getting in some last-minute training, Sigura said as she knelt down and began helping Haku with the gathering of various medicinal herbs. Their time under Kakashi had taught them to tell the difference between the various herbs. Yeah, only super cool ninja like us can wear headbands like these, Naruto added while pointing to his headband with affection. So are you training for something dangerous? Haku questioned. Yeah, you might say that, Peter said as he offered his own collection of herbs to Haku. The Leaf Village has us out on a mission in these parts. Yeah, we're just developing our skills so that we can get stronger, Naruto said in agreement. You all seem very strong now, is that not enough for you? Haku questioned the group curiously. Not with some of the stuff that we have to prepare for, Sigura said darkly, as she remembered the helpless looks that the villagers had given her as she walked through the streets. It was their duty to help these people to overcome the problems that they now faced. Is that so? Haku said while eyeing the trio. Why is it so important that you become strong? I have to get stronger and be the best one in the village so that they'll all respect me, Naruto said with conviction. Sigura eyed her friend in surprise and confusion. Naruto seemed so different at times than what he had been at the academy. He was so much more driven these days to prove himself in the eyes of all of the villagers and show them just what it was that he could do. It was enough to make a person to stop what they were doing and to take notice of the blonde ninja and to rethink everything that one thought that they knew about him. I also have to prove something to someone else as well, Naruto said with a smirk. One of these days he and I are going to go at it and I'll show him that he's not the greatest or the most powerful. Sigura shook her head in disappointment, and in sum he really was the same knuckle-headed idiot that she had always thought him to be. She had a pretty good idea of just who it was that Naruto was talking about, and she sincerely doubted that he would ever be able to make it to the goal that he wanted. Naruto had grown a lot since their academy days, but she doubted that Sasuke would be the easy mark that Naruto believed that he would be. Because as much as Naruto had grown, she wouldn't be surprised to learn that Sasuke had grown even more than they had. So are you doing this training for a person or for yourself? Haku questioned with interest. Huh? A confused Naruto questioned. Is there someone who is precious to you? Haku said, trying to clarify the question. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Haku was silent for a moment, lost in thought or memory before finally speaking. When a person has something or someone that is precious to them and they need to protect them, that is when they become genuinely strong. Use the power of your loved ones in order to give you the strength to carry on then? Sigura asked. It's similar in the basic core concept of chakra manipulation. If your soul is feeling a great need to do something, then it will help you to produce even more chakra than you can normally put out. The Kaneki said as she tried to understand everything that there was about what they were talking about. Naruto nodded his head in agreement as he thought of other times and places when it had been the words or strength of others that had helped either him or others to move forward. Sure, Naruto said as he gestured to the other two members of the group. My team is precious to me, he explained to Haku with full conviction in his words. Oh, that is so sweet, Peter said before grabbing his friend in a headlock and giving him a light-hearted noogie. You're a precious person to us as well, Naruto. A smiling Sigura then bopped both boys on the head. Haku smiled at the group of ninja and gracefully rose from the ground. Haku looked at the playful group. You will get strong, all of you will, Haku prophesied while looking them over. Goodbye, Haku said, turning and walking away. We will meet again, ninja of the village hidden in the leaves. Haku stopped for a moment and spoke over the shoulder. Oh, and by the way, I'm a boy. What? Naruto said in surprise, but he's even prettier than Sakura-chan. The boy said out loud. Uh-oh. Peter said as he stepped away from his friend. What did you say? An irate Sakura growled as she glared at the blonde with death eyes. There is no way that he's prettier than me. The girl snarled out at her teammate in anger and annoyance, her eyes taking on an unholy light as she drew her arm back to clobber the blonde. She jerked though as something halted her attack. She turned to look at Peter, who was holding her arm in his hand. Not now, Peter said as he released the arm. We have bigger fish to fry right now anyways. We can worry about the pretty boy later on, but right now we have a job to do. That means we all need to be at our best. The two figures turned and glared at each other while a nervous Naruto wondered if he about to get hit or not. Sakura finally relented and lowered her arm in defeat. Fine, but I won't forget this, Naruto. Sakura said, waving her fist threatening at the blonde. Naruto nodded hesitantly and swallowed in fear at the unholy gleam in her eyes. Come on, Naruto. Let's show Sakura just what we can do before we head over for our real mission. Peter suggested. The blonde eagerly nodded and the pair took for a pair of trees and walked all the way up to the point that Sakura had made it the other day. You guys actually managed it. Sakura cheered the pair. Naruto stood on the top of a tree branch for a moment and fell. Oh crap. The orange-clad boy said as he began to fall. Hang on, partner, Peter said as he released his grip on the tree and raised his arms and began firing several strands of webbing out. In a few moments a web was below them. The boys twisted and landed feet first, then used the spring of the web like a giant trampoline to launch themselves back into the air and grab the branch. Sakura just laughed at their antics and then jumped from her branch to land on the webbing as well. Maybe I should have put that up earlier, Peter said, as he and Naruto leapt down beside her. Forget about that, it's almost lunchtime and Kakashi-sensei wanted us in town around this time, Sakura said. The other two nodded and followed after their teammate. The trio met Kakashi on a rooftop and quickly ate the meal that he had brought with him. All right, now that you've eaten, if you look over there you should see our target, Kakashi said, nodding to a bar where the enforcers could be seen walking out. As you can see on their shoulders they all wear headbands. That means that they are likely real ninjas, so be careful when you confront them. Now would be the time to fight them. Do your best. Work together and be careful, he advised them. While you're doing that I shall keep Gato and the rest of his men distracted. He then flickered away onto the streets. Kakashi reappeared at a restaurant that rose over all the other building in the town. The men at the door nodded to the ninja and let him enter. Kakashi was guided to a balcony table where a short man with wild gray hair and sunglasses that covered his eyes. On either side of the man were two large men who each carried a sheathed sword at the ready. Gato, I presume? Kakashi questioned as he stopped before the table. His eyes roaming around and picking out several thugs and hired muscle that were prepared to fight off the famous ninja if need be. It looked like the enforcers were the only hired muscle in town while the others were all here on protection detail. Take Kakashi, the copycat ninja of Konoha. Gato greeted, as he rose and the two exchanged bows. It's been a while since I've had to come to a place like this, Kakashi said as he sat down and looked the shipping mogul and suspected crime lord over. What is it that you want, Gato? Direct to the point. That is one of the things that I do like about you, ninja. There's none of that beating around the bush stuff that so many of the businessmen that I deal with like to work on, Gato said with a smirk. It's simple really. You see, I understand that you've been hired to act as security for Tsuno the bridge builder. Rumor has it that he needs you to keep a particularly unpleasant ninja off of his back while he finishes his bridge. Something like that, Kakashi said evasively. Well, just out of curiosity, I was wondering how much money the man is paying you? Gato questioned him curiously. I mean, it might be something to know in case I was to ever need ninja if something were to happen. Information like that could save me the time of having to research it. I see, Kakashi said while staring at the man blandly waiting for the rest of the pitch that he knew was about to come. I'm also curious as to how much it would take for you and your students to be elsewhere for about 5 minutes as well. Hire you for a minor job, Gato said with a smile. Kakashi nodded at this, understanding exactly what it was that he really wanted from him. I'm afraid that when Leaf Ninja accept a job we are not very good at taking second ones as well. But it has happened before? Gato pressed. Yes, I suppose it has, Kakashi said guardedly. Then I may have a job for you, Kakashi Hatake, of the village hidden in the leaves. For both you and your students, Gato said with a shark-like smile. 2 possible future business ventures, the man said, raising his say cup. To the mission, and future business that it may bring, Kakashi returned, raising his own drink cup. The enforcers walked out of the bar and smirked as they saw that the various people of Wave bowed their heads or turned away from them. There was no arguing over the fact that they were the ones that ruled the small village. Gato might be the one that officially ran the small town thanks to his money, but it was their strength that kept the villagers in line so that Gato could rule as he did. So where should we go next? Whiplash questioned his companions. We should do some work. I hear that there is supposed to be some fools down near the docks that thought that they could go and fish for food without paying us for bringing in food. Sure Shot said with a smirk. Is that so? Well then perhaps we should head down there and remind them that there's a protection fee for that sort of thing for a reason. The men laughed harshly, and then disappeared with a flicker and reappeared on top of a warehouse where they saw several men swiftly working on unloading a ship full of a cargo of freshly caught fish. Looky here boys, we got some people here that went and forgot the rules, Whiplash said as the ninja looked down at the villagers. I do believe that you should know better than this. The only folks allowed to bring goods in and out are the company. Sure Shot, show them what happens to those that don't play by the rules. The archer nodded and pulled an arrow out and aimed it at the ship and released it. Everyone watched as it flew and struck the middle of the boat. Everyone watched the arrow for a moment and then suddenly there was an explosion that tripped a hole in the ship. No. One of the fishermen said as he reached out toward the ship. How could you? That boat was one my father and I put together. Sorry about that. Perhaps we should send you to join your old man's boat? Whiplash suggested with an evil smirk. Rouse if you'll get the man for me? The large man nodded and disappeared in a blur and reappeared next to the man. He then pulled the giant hammer off of his back and let it smash into the ground headfirst, cracking the ground. He then lifted the hammer and twirled it around like a lightweight staff that cleared the area around the man. And now it's my turn, Whiplash said, as he reached for the whip at his side. He snapped it forward and the weapon began to hum with power as lightning chakra began to move through the weapon. It stiffened as it became a spear. He twirled it a few times before slicing through a nearby pole. Yes, this will do to finish you off, Whiplash said, as he twirled the weapon again and it returned to its whip form. He snapped the whip forward to finish the fisherman off. The fisherman's eyes widened in fear as the lightning-charged whip headed toward him. At the last minute though, a kunai appeared out of nowhere and deflected the weapon away. What, who dares? Whiplash snarled out angrily as he turned to see who had stopped him from making the kill. That would be us. Everyone looked up to see the 3 young genin standing on a nearby roof with reproachful glares. How about we show you a real fight? Naruto questioned with a smirk on his face. Who are you brats? Rouse questioned. They're old man Tsuna's little bodyguards, Whiplash growled out angrily. It would seem that the old man has finally decided to make his move against us and the boss. Then I guess we need to show them the error of their ways, Sure Shot said, as he strung another arrow on his bow and pointed it at the trio. Unless they want to do the smart thing, and leave now while they have the chance, that is. Show us what you got, Peter said as he readied himself to move. Because let me tell ya, Hawkeye, you ain't You brats sure you want to do this? Whiplash said from where he was standing. You do this, it's official that we're enemies, and I don't care if you are the students of Sharingan Kakashi, we won't go easy on you. Last chance to walk away before you find yourselves in more trouble than you can deal with, kids. Oh, we're sure all right, you better get out of our way unless you don't want us to run right over you. Naruto said with a smile. I think that mouth of yours has just written a check bigger than you can pay for, brat. Rouse growled out in annoyance. Let's see what happens when you face a real ninja. Geez, not that old line again. Peter said from where he was standing. I mean seriously, how many times do we have to hear that crap? The whole you brats are not real ninja, you have not done what I have, you have not experienced what I have. See my awesome power and tremble before my evil greatness despite the fact that I am attacking people that have no training whatsoever. I mean, do you guys all get the same guy to do your script or something? If so, then Masashi Kishimoto really needs to explain to you guys about the art of being repetitive. Let's do it then. Whiplash said as he jumped into the air to confront the Genin squad. Rouse joined him in his charge while Sure Shot leapt away firing arrows toward the Leaf Village shinobi. Team 7 leapt in to confront the ninja. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto said as he flew through the air and 5 more versions of himself appeared around him in puffs of smoke. Combined, the group of Narutos slammed into Whiplash, taking him toward the ground. Whiplash glared and leapt away from the ninja and then snapped his whip at the figures. The weapon flew through the air and punctured 3 of the clones before he yanked the weapon back towards his waiting hand. Is that the best you can do, kid, a bunch of shadow clones? This will be the easiest fight I've ever had, he said, as the whip snapped again and destroyed the other 2 clones. Oh yeah? Well, we'll just have to see about that. Naruto shouted back in return, Shadow Clone Jutsu. He called out again and more orange-clad figures appeared around the docks. Each of the clones drew a kunai and charged at the figure before them. Whiplash laughed as he sent a burst of chakra into his steel whip, forcing it to stiffen, and he began to fight the small army with a metal staff. The ninja moved back and forth as he destroyed clone after clone. Here's a little something I learned from Sensei's headhunt jutsu, Naruto said, and suddenly a copy of Naruto burst out of the ground with an uppercut that sent the other ninja flying into a bunch of crates that shattered upon impact. Lucky shot, Whiplash said as he rose back to his feet, rubbing his chin where the genin had struck him. It'll take more than that to take me down. Then let's get wild, Naruto said as he charged at the older ninja. The two began an intricate dance. Whiplash with his staff and Naruto with his kunai were bouncing back and forth as they tried to stop each other. Every time Whiplash thought he finally had gotten the upper hand, the figure he was fighting would explode in a cloud of smoke and a new orange-clad figure would take his place. Naruto grinned as he ducked beneath a swipe and drove his fist toward the gut of his target, scowling though as Whiplash managed to sidestep the blow and sent him tumbling. He looked over his shoulder to see 2 of his clones were holding the kunai in a block as they fended the large figure off. Why don't you try this? Naruto said as he rose back to his feet. Shadow Shuriken, he said, as he and many of his clones each threw a shuriken at the figure. Whiplash leapt back and began twirling his staff as fast as possible so it created a glowing circle in front of him which caught all of the incoming blades. Once the blades were done coming, he reverted his weapon back to its whip form, and as he came back down he swung the whip in a circle and a dozen clones disappeared with puffs of smoke. You're nothing but an irritant boy, Whiplash snarled out as he slammed his fist into another figure and grinned as he saw this one spit out blood. Found you, brat. Naruto glared at the man. Really, 'cause I don't think so, the blonde said as he lunged at the surprised man who had been expecting him to summon more clones or leap into the clones already there. You can't fight if you can't move, Naruto said casually, and suddenly the various clones all began grabbing onto the limbs. Not done yet, Naruto then began spinning the ninja around and tossed him out into the lake. The boy chuckled a bit as he looked at the wet ninja. He then turned to look to check in on his teammates. Peter was laughing as he bounced around Rouse and Sure Shot. He and Sigura were doing their best to keep the two busy so as to not be able to help out Whiplash or to do something unexpected. Rouse was obviously unused to fighting someone that matched him in sheer strength, and Peter was also able to move at faster speeds than most of the people that had his type of physical strength. The man's attacks were sloppy and uncoordinated to most ninja, as he was easily able to sidestep the various strikes before they even had a chance of connecting. Tired of fighting the figure that wouldn't stand still and swap blows with him, Rouse pulled his hammer out and struck it into the ground with a slam. Earth-style earth flow spears. Several sharpened earth spikes rose out of the surrounding ground trying to skewer the two-leaf shinobi who leapt out of the way. Rouse didn't even hesitate though as he moved forward, swing his hammer at his creations, shattering the pikes and sending them sailing at the two ninja. Well, that was unexpected, Peter noted, as he flipped over the attack as the sharp spikes were flying all around them. He could probably give Happy Gilmore a run for his money with a slap shot like that. He joked as he leaned back to let another attack sail a few inches over his chest. Sigura let out a huff as she slipped in and out of the way of the incoming spikes. There were times she really wished that her squad mate made more sense in what he said and did. There were times that he said jokes or made comments that she thought he presumed everyone would get and no one would know what they really meant. While they were dodging the incoming spikes, they were also dodging the explosive arrows that were being fired at them. "Let's turn this into a real contest," Sure Shot said, as he began firing at the spikes that were passing the ninja. The two ninja were suddenly being bombarded by bits and pieces of rock and explosions that threw them all over the place. "Sigura, deal with Sure Shot, I've got the big guy," Peter said as he leapt into the air and landed on a passing pillar before leaping off the spike before an arrow with an explosive tag could strike it. "Right," Sigura said as she drew several of her kunai and began throwing them toward Sure Shot as she moved out of the way of the flying rocks and spikes. Sigura switched targets as she saw that the ninja was bouncing out of the way and aimed at the incoming arrows instead of the shinobi. Her blade snapped one arrow in half, causing the explosive tag wrapped around it to prematurely explode and sent the archer flying away. The archer managed to right himself in time to see the pink-haired girl was closing the distance between them. He raised his bow and blocked a punch that would have knocked the wind out of him. Snaking the weapon behind her ankle, he tripped her up and prepared to slam the weapon into her head. Sigura rolled out of the way though, and responded by coming up and punching him in the shoulder. Sure Shot merely glared at the girl as he continued trying to swat her with his bow. For all of her training weaknesses, the one thing that could always be said about her was that she could move agilely on her feet and avoid blows that were aimed at her. Sigura ducked, bobbed and weaved as she came to her feet. While she wasn't at Peter's level of dodging, she was more than capable of keeping this ninja distracted from trying to hit her. As Sure Shot raised his bow again to knock her away, she struck at him with all the strength that she could muster. She watched as the man grunted in pain and took several steps back and even gasped at the force of the blow. "That's one heck of a punch you got the girlie," Sure Shot rasped out in pain. "Too bad for you, you probably don't have a whole lot of those in you though." "You might be surprised," Sigura said as she used her chakra to speed herself up slightly and get behind him and land another blow to the small of his back. As the guy fell, he twisted though and delivered a kick to her face. Sigura rubbed the side of her face ruefully as she felt the beginning of a bruise on her now tender skin. The two figures moved back and forth, bow versus kunai, as the pair went back and forth in an attempt to stop each other. Sure Shot had reach and experience on his side, while Sigura had speed and surprisingly enough chakra. It seemed that Sure Shot made up for his lack of chakra by using weapons and tools to fight with instead of ninjutsu. Peter ran along the flying spikes and leapt from one to the other as he tried to close the distance between himself and Rouse. The large ninja responded by trying to send more of the spikes at him. "So tell me, do all these large items you keep thrusting at me have some sort of hidden meaning?" because personally I'm hoping it just means that you want me dead or are at the least jealous," Peter said as he closed the gap and punched Rouse, then leapt away before he could defend himself. "I'm going to grind your bones up, little boy," Rouse returned as he fired 2 spikes at the same time. "Earth-style, spiked wall," he said as a wall of earth covered in spikes appeared. "Release," he said, and suddenly the wall fired all of its spikes out all at once. "Yowza, and he opens fire," Peter said as he dropped to the ground and let the stones fly over his head. "I bet the people in landscape development love you, Rouse. Where did you learn that little trick anyways?" Rouse didn't say anything as he slammed his hammer into the wall, shattering it and sending the bits and pieces out at the agile young ninja. Peter leapt into the air and flipped over Rouse. The masked figure landed in a crouch behind the Earth Ninja and performed a mule kick that lifted the man off the ground and into a nearby warehouse wall. The ninja groaned as he climbed back to his feet. The ninja they were facing were so much faster and stronger than most of the ninja that they were used to facing off against. He used the hammer to help force himself back to his feet and looked around to see his companions in similar poses of defeat. They might be able to do something, but they would be hard-pressed at the rate that they were going. He felt something hit his leg and looked down to see an odd-colored rope wrapped around his feet. The ninja yelled in surprise as the rope jerked, knocking him off his feet, and he lifted into the air and began to spin at an alarming rate. The large ninja landed painfully in front of the other 2 members of the group. "How did they do this to us?" Rouse questioned his companions as he crawled back to his feet. "I don't know," Whiplash returned to his companion. He then turned to look at the group of triumphant young ninja. "Know this, Team 7, we will meet again, and the next time we won't be caught off guard so easily." The ninja each dropped a smoke bomb and disappeared from sight. "Well, that was fun," Naruto said with a grin as they watched the smoke clear. "Think that Kakashi-sensei will teach us a cool new jutsu for winning all of our fights?" The blonde questioned his friends eagerly. The other 2 members laughed at their excitable teammate and his ideas on what a decent reward was. The villagers cheered at their saviors that had helped them to get food that would fill their bellies and the bellies of the children. For the first time in a long time the people felt a stirring of hope in the bottom of their hearts. Gato looked down from his balcony window with a frown as he saw the retreating forms of his ninja as they did their best to leave without being seen. "Your students are very skilled in combat," he said coldly. "Yes, they are," Kakashi admitted with a hint of pride as he saw the distinctive colors of his 3 students. "They are merely showing you what happens when you hire Super Ninja though. Those 3 ninja, while extremely skilled, are only a few months out of the academy. Do you really think that anyone would take you seriously if you were to ever try anything with them?" The Jonin questioned the man idly. "Those men may know their basic training, but they were upper-level genin level at the best. Not the type of power that you want to be associated with when making a reputation for yourself. You also have to understand that they were simply responding as proper ninja would. Rock and Leaf Ninja are still rather uncomfortable around each other. The truce between Leaf and Sand is tenuous at best, and the friendship between Cloud and Leaf is still strained since their last official meeting in which their ambassador died while in the compound of one of the clans. They probably thought they were trouble from the get-go and decided to deal with the threat." Gato scowled at this, knowing that he could hardly call the ninja before him a liar. Particularly, when he was probably his only hope of dealing with his abuser and his traveling companion. Maybe he would luck out and the pair would finish each other off, or at the worst they would both find themselves working for him in some capacity or other. Besides, he didn't have the time to send to any of the other ninja that he usually kept on his payroll to come and finish the job. The enforcers had always been good enough at their jobs that he hadn't thought he would need anyone else. They would have dealt with a tired or weakened abuser or even Kakashi. Now he would have to send all of his forces to deal with them if things got out of hand because the ninja brats had decided to go and play hero inside of his town. He would see to it that they paid for causing him so much trouble over everything that had happened in the last few days that had made life so uncomfortable. As he understood it, if it hadn't been for them, this entire mess would have already been dealt with and the bridge wouldn't be where it was now. He forced a smile onto his face as he turned to Kakashi and the two talked of possibilities. The group of ninja down below never noticed the blue-robed figure that was standing on the top of a building where they had watched the entire fight from start to finish. "Yes, you have indeed grown strong since your last battle," Haku said from behind his porcelain mask. They would need to be ready to deal with all of the members of this team. Now that they had lost the only combat-worthy members of Gato's forces, they would have to do it on their own. "If you survive the coming confrontation between us, then you shall indeed go far." Peter Parker, Abraham, Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. The ninja then seemed to disappear in a swirl of leaves as he went to check up on his precious person.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys want to watch more like it, please subscribe to my channel and become part of the video game fanfiction plot. And please leave a comment down below and hit that like button. If you guys have any suggestions on any stories you guys want me to read, don't hesitate. They're always welcome here in the video game fanfic plot. That also goes for video games. Until next time, goodbye!